Hi, my name is Dylan Meterspot. This is IO, and this is Ouroboros Protocol. So, for this week, I don't remember how much I've added because I added so much and worked so much this week. The weeks are bleeding together. I don't 100% know for sure what was this week and what was last week. So first of all, I did a lot of changes involving the actual weapons that IO uses. Originally, the shotgun looked like this. But as the game evolves, I'm kind of getting more of an identity on how I want IO to handle the weapons. So I made it an arm attachment, and then I decided that it needed to be offset. That way, it can actually rotate like he does in game. So when he actually does rotate his weapon, or when he reloads his weapon, it doesn't glitch through the entire arm and look super awkward. So this is the shotgun, at least what it looks like right now. Of course, everything's subject to change again. But other than that, this week I added a couple more buildings in. I'm not sure which ones are changed. I added these little bubbles in. They're in the air everywhere. They got this really neat refraction going on with them. And I worked a lot more on the environment to make it feel more Frutiger Aero, which I hope that worked out, especially in trying to make this actually look like a motherboard in a Frutiger Aero environment. Other than that, I worked a little bit more on the actual light shafts. If you watch these for a second, it slowly but very surely changes. Oh, the game's paused right now. I'm stupid. Hold on. There we go. Yeah, you can see it very slowly but very surely slightly changes, and then that kind of works on stuff like this, where you see, oh, it's a little bit more blue because that's the light shining through the top up here. And then I got all these bubbles and all the fish, the kind of stuff you'd see in these cars right here. You can see their little index of refraction right there. I put a lot more trees everywhere, and I worked a lot more on the actual dome, which you can see right here. Of course, there's a little bit of Z fighting. That's because I still have to edit this and I have to move it up a little bit. But for now, that's just ignore that. But yeah, this is what the dome looks like on the inside. Pinning the butt to make in voxels, not have the whole thing blend together. These are little auxiliary audio ports. And then I got stuff like byte spawning. We got a couple more trees just strewn about. Of course, you can see the. I forgot that I have that running. There we go. Yeah, you can see the grass. I kind of changed the shaders up just a little bit on the grass, the way that they're handled in the environment. I felt like they needed to be a little bit more invisible from the side, simply because they just kind of stick out of the environment a little too much. And then here are the roses, of course. All pretty. And then whenever you do start a game, you'll get randomly generated chests now. It's not a fantastic spawner, as you can probably see in cases like this guy. That shouldn't be there. But otherwise, it doesn't have any randomized direction. They all just kind of spawn facing the same direction. But they do spawn in, which is a lot more than I had last time. Other than that, I added all of these stoplights, at least where they're supposed to go. I have all the sky catwalks done. A little bit of things like this, where it's like a little bit abstract in the way that it's handled. A little car going like upside down right here. Kind of like a little quarry thing right here. Still working on a couple of the buildings. That's why there's some empty slots. And then all the buildings are going to be done this upcoming week. Yeah. Areas like this. Of course, you can tell that there's chests underground, which shouldn't be. Don't know why the spawner's deciding to handle it that way. Frankly, that is an issue for me next week. Or I guess this week. But yeah, the roads have been fixed, other than of course, the chests spawning inside of them. And then everything else was done gameplay-wise. So now you can more easily swap between the three. The way that the game handles your movement, it has been altered just a little bit. especially with like this. It used to completely stop your inertia, but you can actually use it to be additive. So if you're already going fast, it's not going to stop everything you're doing. It actually adds to it. And of course here's the shader working the way it's actually supposed to right here, which looks so nice. Right now the only enemies spawning are the bites, but their spawner is sort of proper. They're not the smartest, but they know where you are at all times. Here's of course the chest opening. It's gonna be some Aero gel. It's gonna make me jump higher. For this one. But the map is fully playable now, in the sense that it's actually like a little bit of a playground. It can actually be used for what it actually is meant to be used for, which is really nice. One kind of a funny thing is if you jump up in the air, the bites don't know where you are. This is obviously an issue with the nav mesh, because IO is no longer in the bounds of the nav mesh when you jump in the air. But I like that they're stupid. So until I program a smarter enemy, I'm going to leave it like that. And then when I program a smarter enemy, I'm going to purposely make them a little bit dumber. Just because I really like that they don't know where you are if you're not within the bounds of the nav mesh. I think it's a really cool choice to have, even though as of this moment it's not technically a choice. But I really think that'd be something fun to have later on. Especially considering these are supposed to be like the dumb enemies of the game. So they're really simple right now. But that's definitely something that I'd like to keep in. And of course everything HUD-wise actually works properly. At least the way it's supposed to be. The only thing that's technically improper is the shotgun's damage is mismatched from the hammer and the op. And you can shoot enemies behind you if the camera is located behind them, which is actually a glitch also found in Risk of Rain 2, which is kind of funny. Because the raycast happens from the camera's perspective, not from the player's. That way it lines up a lot better. When I work with projectiles, they will actually be launching from the player, meeting with wherever the raycast from the camera hits, and then that way it meets in the middle and looks a little bit better. Yeah, I actually have spawner handlers for the here's the nav mesh, spawner handler for the enemies, and then a couple spawner handlers for the chests. It's all very, very basic, bare bones, rudimentary stuff, but that's not the 100% focus of this. This is mainly just to create kind of Risk of Rain 2-like level for my game, a little bit more of an open world aesthetic rather than focusing on a linear driven story. So for right now, this is it. And I believe that's everything that I've done. So for now, I think that's it. Thank you so much.